Welcome to Wednesday Relationship Talk with Beth Lee and
Dan IT guy.
Yes, and we are so happy that you guys are here. Welcome to Destroyer, who's in our chat. Gen X rules. Yes. That is our topic for tonight. Gen X is the GOAT generation, and yes, we're going to be
greatest of all time, baby.
Greatest of all time, baby. Yes, so we're going to be talking a lot about that. So we just wanted to welcome you guys here. Everybody who stops in to say hello and comes in to visit, we're really happy that you guys are here.
We appreciate you guys watching. We do this for you guys. So.
Yeah,
we let us know what you want us to do. If you want to see something different, tell us what you want to see, and we'll see what we can do.
Because normally we talk about marriage stuff, and this week we're talking about Gen X stuff, which kind of relates. It kind of relates to relationships because you know you have to have relationships with people in other generations, and sometimes you don't want to because Gen X is the best. So
it's not my fault.
But anyways, in the chat we have a link to the book Making Marriage Last, so you're welcome to go and check that out and buy it for people that you know, buy it for yourself, whatever you'd like to do.
Yes.
And if you like the channel, you can feel free to like and subscribe. We always appreciate everybody that comes in and makes comments and makes us laugh throughout the day. Even if they're bad comments, we still laugh. So
I mean, even if we're
dumbasses,
we're never dumbasses. What are you talking about? So I actually have to apologize to Dan because this morning I woke up in kind of a bad mood, but it's not my fault because I had this dream. This dream was so weird. So in the dream, I'm at Walmart. Stop it, Tess. So in the dream, I'm at Walmart, and I get behind this lady that is just going so slow in one of those carts, like what is it?
The little blue retard cart.
Like the mechanical cart, whatever, and the little wheelbarrow that she was driving around. And so she's going super slow and like almost falling out of the thing. And it just, I started yelling at her to move, and I started pushing her down the aisle. And then the Walmart police are chasing me around and tackling me. And I'm like in the middle of screaming at Walmart police, and I wake up. And I came downstairs, and Dan's like, "Why are you in such a bad mood?" And I'm like, because I was really mad in my dream. I don't understand what the hell was going on. I don't get it. But yeah, it was weird.
I had a dream last night. I like never have dreams.
You never have dreams.
Ever. And I don't know. It was weird. It's like in my dream, I woke up. It was like totally real. It was so real I couldn't even believe it.
Really?
So I wake up and I turn around and you're sitting in bed eating popcorn.
Really?
How'd you know I was going to tell that story?
I don't know. So what else happened in your dream?
You told me that I was still sleeping and just go back to sleep. So I rolled over and went back to sleep.
This is all a dream. Go back to sleep. Anyways. Yeah. So I'm sorry that I woke up in such a bad mood. So today, I finished eating the popcorn. That was not a good idea.
No.
Anyways, today we're going to be talking about Gen X being the GOAT generation. And I just have to say, we have a lot of different names for our generation. We were the forgotten ones, the grunge generation, MTV generation.
Heavy metal generation.
I was never called that.
Yeah, you were.
I was not.
Yeah, you were.
Latchkey generation. We pretty much raised ourselves with very little adult supervision. So it was basically us and our siblings and, the TV.
Yep.
And that was about it. And we were expected to come home from school and unlock the door, go inside. We had to clean the house, make sure it was all clean, and then start dinner after we finished doing our homework.
Yep.
And me being the oldest one, like all of us who were the oldest ones, we were pretty much in charge. We were the parents for those 2 hours. And, you have to pretty much raise your siblings, and make sure they're not doing anything stupid like lighting the house on fire, or killing the dog, or anything, or killing each other,
stabbing each other with forks or something. Yeah.
Well, I did that to my brother, but
I was saying that, just putting it out there.
But back in our generation,
back in my day, we jumped ramps with our bikes outside, not on these newfangled video games.
But we had pretty swift justice when it came to like dealing with your siblings. Justice was swift and it was painful. Yes. So, you didn't really step out of line with your siblings, because that's just not a good idea. You know what's going to happen. Like my brothers all knew, if you go in my room, mess with my shit, you're going to get your ass kicked. That's just the way it's going to be. So don't do it,
True.
And yeah, it was,
I might have got a beat down or two from her, just
don't touch my shit.
For walking in her room.
Don't touch my shit. That's the thing. The don't touch my shit.
See, the thing is, what you didn't realize was the other guys were in there fucking shit up. I happened to walk in the room. They all ran off, and then you come walking down the hallway. And I'm just standing there going, she has pretty dresser.
I didn't say justice was fair. I just said it was swift.
So this is what a girl's room lives at. I would have thunk it.
Yeah, because you didn't have any sisters to mess around with.
Oh.
You did break my doll that I had when I was 3 years old.
That was not me. I already told you that.
You were holding onto the head. And it was like a little doll that was filled with little beans. And I had the thing since I was 3. And he's holding onto the head. My brothers are running down the hall, carrying the body and dropping beads all over. You were holding the head.
It was not me.
Okay. So anyways, like I said, we pretty much raised ourselves, and we had to figure things out. Like we actually had to do research and figure things out. Like if you had a book report that was due,
we didn't have Windows.
No
such thing. We didn't have a computer.
No, you had to go to this place called the library.
What?
And like go into this file system that was called the Dewey Decimal System.
Oh yeah.
And then you had to check out these things called books. It was crazy.
Wipe the dust off.
You had to read the books.
Smells like poop. Never did like
glorious.
Books.
I loved books. They were glorious. Oh my gosh, I loved books. They were awesome. That was my escape.
It's because you use all smart and stuff.
Yeah,
don't make fun of me because I'm stupid.
We had to do all this research for ourselves. Like you had to like you were given a topic, like Ethiopia or something, and you had to go to the library and hope that none of your classmates had that same topic, because you had to find books on Ethiopia and check them out of the library,
right,
and then read the books to find the information that you needed. Like we had to do research. That's why all of us Gen Xers know how to do research, because we had to do it. we
actually had encyclopedias.
Yes.
Of course, I wrote stuff that was in the encyclopedia, and it just happened to be between this particular year and this particular year was incorrect.
You copied from the encyclopedia.
I did not verbatim. I was not plagiarizing.
You changed like 3 words?
No, I completely restated everything that they said.
If you change more than 3 words, it's not plagiarism.
I just completely restated everything just to be sure. I said what they said, only in my words,
Yes.
No, that wasn't what I put down.
We are the first generation, though, to learn how to use computers. And I still remember being in college, and this is back in, I'm going to show my age, I know, back in like 92, 93, 94, and being in the computer lab because nobody had computers at home.
Right.
We went to a computer lab and you took floppy disks and you put them into the machine and then it brought up your whole report. And that was amazing.
After
If you
a half an hour of typing into the command prompt. File run.
Yes.
Word.exe.
And then you had to make sure that like you had the right floppy disk. So I had a little plastic container that had all my floppy disks for college, and then they were all labeled and stuff because I was, organized and stuff. And then like the only problem I had was I had typed up a whole report, like I don't know, 5 or 6 page report, and put it on I thought I put it on this floppy disk. Apparently I didn't hit save. I was so upset because I had to turn it in that afternoon and there was nothing. Thank God I still did everything old school where I had written the entire thing out on actual paper.
Right.
So all I had to do was type it in, but I was so mad. I'm like, oh my gosh. And you had to wait in line at the computer lab to get a computer.
Oh yeah.
It was crazy.
I remember because we had a computer lab at school in high school.
Mm-hmm.
Like the last 2 years of high school, there was a decent computer lab. It had 386 computers or whatever. And I used to go in every single morning and floppy. My disk is all floppy. What does that mean?
That means you got to stroke it. Yeah, like, oh, sorry. Go ahead.
So anyway,
computer lab at high school.
I would go in there and we would feed the discs into the machine and play. There was a game called Police Quest that we would play all the time, and it was actually pretty fun. It was a little better than Atari, but not much. But it was fun. And then, of course, when a friend of mine happened to get a little game called it was called Drug Wars, and what it was is basically buying and selling drugs in a fake environment.
Really?
Yeah. So you would.
I never heard of that game. I don't remember that.
You would buy a bunch. You'd buy a bunch of, let's just say, cocaine, for example. You buy a ton of cocaine, and then all of a sudden, and you're making money, like bam, 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 you're making money, and then all of a sudden,
we just said cocaine.
The Marrakesh Express comes into town and ruins everything because then they saturate the market with cocaine and you're screwed. Can't sell it. So then you have to take your cocaine and you have to buy marijuana and try to sell that, or heroin or whatever. It was a game. It was a game. It's all,
wow,
economics and stuff. Learn to buy and sell when the market's hot.
Wow. Why didn't they just teach you how to buy real estate or something? That would have been better than buying drugs.
That's just the game that I didn't buy the game. Someone else did.
That is crazy.
My mom would have killed me about that game.
Yeah, no, she would have.
We had computers. We had an Atari 400, 800.
Which remember what kind we had.
Atari Basic, which is not the same as PC Basic. Similar, but not the same. And then there was the Commodore 64. There was, we got our first 286 computer because my mom was in real estate and she needed it to be able to look up listings. And we would go on to Netscape Navigator and go on the internet.
The dial-up?
The dial-up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I remember the dial-up. If you don't know what dial-up sounds like, youngsters, Google it and listen to it. Yeah. Make sure you turn the volume way up in your earbuds so that you can really hear it because it sounds really good.
And to say that it was slow, it was ridiculously slow.
And God forbid you are on there when your dad is expecting a phone call.
Oh, yeah, because it just dumped you off.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, we were the generation where I think we were the last generation that was taught to respect your elders.
Yep.
And the last generation where definitely the last generation where corporal punishment was allowed.
Yes.
Because I remember like my dad would give us a look and it was quite different than the look my mom would give. If my mom gave a look, we knew we were going to get hit by something, maybe a broom or a shoe or,
See, my mom and dad would go around and meet the neighbors and stuff, and they would say, if our kids are getting in trouble, just go ahead and smack their ass for them. Yeah.
Yeah. Those were the days where, it took a village to raise a kid, but the village all got to beat the shit out of your kid. That's how it worked.
You could be walking through Kmart, because back then there was no Walmart.
Blue light
there was a Walmart, but it was in Arkansas.
I did not know what Walmart was until I watched Christmas Vacation. That was the first time I had seen a Walmart.
Yep.
And that was, But you'd be like my brothers would play the little game of like running into the clothing racks and hiding from my mom. Yeah. And my mom would reach in there and grab them and beat their ass in the middle of Kmart. Grab a hanger and start whacking them.
We did that until my mom walked out the store.
We would just,
and then we didn't know where she went, and we freaked out.
Yeah, people would walk by and they would hold on to your kid so that he couldn't escape you as you were beating the shit out of him.
Yeah.
They were helpful.
Yes.
Yeah, you can't do that today.
No.
Can't do that at all. Like, it started like with the millennials. Like you can't do shit. You're afraid to even say anything to your kid when you're out in public because it's like, are people going to think that, that I'm emotionally abusing my child if I say, hey, dumbass, you want to put that down? You can't say that anymore. At least not outside the house.
Yes.
You can't.
Yeah. I had some friends of mine that we would get on the BBS, the bulletin board system, which was kind of like a crude internet kind of thing where they had, pictures and they had videos and they had news and they had this kind, a bunch of different stuff on there. And you could go in and you could look at it all and you could post stuff. And yeah, that was really, really, really like you could, let's say you're going to download a really small picture. It would take about a half an hour to an hour.
Oh my God.
For a really small picture.
Yeah.
To go from where it was to your computer. It took forever.
Yeah. I just remember like my friends would call the house and that dog is, do you want to maybe let her inside?
Sure.
Okay. That sounds
I'll be right back.
Yeah. My friends would call the house and if my dad wasn't on the phone, we could answer the phone and we were allowed 5 minutes on the phone, 5 minutes. And that was all, because if the phone call was, if you were still on the phone and 5 minutes hit, my dad would just walk over and tap the button on the phone and your phone call was over. And, you'd walk outside. You didn't dare say, hey, I was on the phone. And because he would hand me the phone bill if I said that. I remember saying that one time and my dad was like, anytime you want to pay the phone bill, feel free to do that. It's yours for the taking. And it's just, yeah, you didn't get away with a whole lot. Oh my gosh, this dog. Anyways, we were also the first generation that had like a microwave. They had them in the 70s, but they weren't, people didn't use them very much. We were really the first generation that would cook meals in the, like TV dinners and things in the microwave. We were the first generation that had video games that we could play. And I remember my mom, like we were not allowed to play video games very long, maybe for a couple hours. Like,
have you played Atari today?
No, I have not. And my mom would take over. Like my dad would say, okay, you guys have to stop playing. It's your mom's turn. And she played the hell out of Miss Pac-Man.
Yeah.
Like she said, I remember her staying up one night and she wanted to see what would happen when you got to 999, 999,000. And it flipped over to zero again.
Yeah.
I thought she was going to break the TV. She's like, God damn it! Threw the remote down or whatever it is, the controller.
The greatest invention of all time, though, VHS.
Yes. VHS
we could actually watch movies at our house.
Yes.
Whenever we wanted.
Blockbuster was amazing. you could rewind the movie and watch a certain part over and over and over again. Like Airplane, the part where she's spinning him around and then she's like, oh, that part. We rewound that, I don't know, 10 times. It was hilarious. Let's see. We were the last generation to play outside. The last generation to use our imagination. Like you go outside and you find a stick and a rock. Now you got a baseball game, you know? I mean, it was either that or you had other games like hit the dummy with a rock, you know.
Pig slaughter.
Pig slaughter. Yeah.
Basically, throw a football up in the air. Whoever catches the ball, everyone tries to tackle. That's what pig slaughter is.
It was a great game. But I always tried to call, be all-time quarterback because I was the only girl that would play with all the boys in the neighborhood. Like all the other girls who wanted to play Barbies and stuff, I didn't want to do that because I wasn't a girly girl. I had 3 younger brothers and I wanted to go out and play with the boys, you know? And so I was playing baseball and soccer and football and, with my brothers. And so when they would play pig slaughter, I was all-time quarterback, but they still tackled me because like, oh, you're still holding the ball. I'm quarterback, you dummy. I'm like, you're not supposed to tackle me. What the hell?
We would make a ramp out of anything and jump it with our bike.
Yeah.
I remember a buddy of mine, it was almost time for him to go home and he had brought his bike over and we're all jumping the culvert in front of it because like there was a culvert in the far end of the driveway. So we would go down and we would go up the culvert and then jump the driveway and then land on the other side. And he hit the culvert instead of the ramp and skidded across the driveway just as his mom was pulling in the driveway.
Of course. That's what it always happens.
Snot everywhere. It was one for the books. He was bleeding. I mean, it was bad.
Oh my gosh.
I felt so bad. I'm like, oh God. And here we've been jumping ramps for like, 3 or 4 days.
Right.
And then sure enough, his mom's coming down the road. What does he do? He hits the culvert.
Remember the big wheels?
Oh God. Yeah, well, hell yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
My youngest brother
tried. The green machine.
My youngest brother had a big wheel and like we would jump that with anything that we had around, a board and a couple of logs or a couple of bricks, whatever. A person, hey, lay down here. I'm going to put this board on you. We're going to jump you.
my favorite was you'd go to jump it, and of course you just were trying to put something up so you could jump. So we'd put something down there, and it'd be too thin, or it just would be unstable, and either the ramp would just like floof, fall apart, or you'd hit it and it would just stop your bike and you go flying.
Every time. 60% of the time, every time.
And then I learned how to do a bunny hop. So I would just lift the front tire and then bunny hop off the ramp.
Well, my youngest brother with his little big wheel, he got mad at my mom one time, and he had to have been like 5 years old or something, and he decided he was going to run away. So he packed up a little bag with I don't know what, and got on his big wheel, but he wasn't allowed to cross the street. So he's driving around in circles around our block on his big wheel. Yeah. We respected our parents. I could tell you that. My parents did some stupid stuff, but we respected our parents because you had to. My dad was the coach for our basketball team when I was in 5th grade through 8th grade, and if we lost a game, he would say, "All right, start running," and we'd have to run laps. And sure enough, we'd always have some dumb girl that would say, "How many laps do we have to do?" And he's like, "Until I tell you to stop." And then he'd go outside and have, I don't know how many smokes outside. And then after a while, he'd come back in. And if we weren't running still, we had to start over again. It was I'm like, you guys better not stop running because I don't want to make my dad mad. Just keep going. Yeah. But we're the adaptable generation. We're fiercely independent, and we're critical thinkers.
Mhm.
That's what makes
There's the difference.
that is what makes Gen X different than some of the other generations around right now, is that we're critical thinkers, because we had to figure things out. We had to figure things out for ourselves, when we were growing up, and do that research, like problem solve. I think
Yeah.
we're very good problem solvers because of that. And, we look at like some of the younger generation and we're like, are they going to succeed? And are they going to like make it till tomorrow? I don't know. Because I don't know. But I did come prepared today. I know that this topic of Gen X being the GOAT, the greatest of all time generation, I know that with us being the best generation, it might offend some people, and I apologize. I really apologize. I don't want to hurt anybody's feelings, and so I did come prepared. I brought a coloring book and some crayons for you, some coloring pencils here. And
we can talk about your feelings.
We can talk about your feelings. You can go sit in a corner if you're offended, and use the coloring book and the crayons, and maybe get a blankie and just go and draw out your feelings for a little while.
What always works for Gen Z, Gen and Millennials is just go take a nap.
Yeah.
Because they need it.
Yeah, and then as they're napping,
they're all
lock
tired
the door.
and stuff because they know what work is.
Anyway.
Yes.
So yeah, that's like the issue, the problems that Gen Z and millennials have. I just can't sympathize very well.
I feel bad for kids these days. They don't even know what they are.
Yeah.
Because no one will tell them, you're a boy, you're a girl. No one will tell them that. Regardless of how you feel, you were given certain things that make you either male or female. It isn't anything against anyone. We love everyone equally.
Right.
But there's two genders. I'm sorry.
It's
science.
And my thing is like the whole pronoun thing. How am I supposed to know what your fucking pronoun is if I don't even know what your goddamn name is yet?
Well, because it's on your Facebook and on your Instagram and on
if I go up to somebody at a store or something and I'm like, oh, excuse me, ma'am, how am I supposed to know they're not actually a ma'am? I'm sorry, I was raised to be polite and and speak politely and respectfully to people, and I'm trying to do that. And then I get yelled at for, well, why would you assume I'm a ma'am? Because you're wearing a dress? I don't know. That's how I was raised.
Yeah.
And then, we're supposed to know what pronouns they are. I'm sorry if it offends you that we're talking about this, but if I don't even know your name and I don't know who you are, how the fuck am I supposed to know what your pronoun is? By the way, mine is she and her. Because I'm a girl.
I don't use that crap.
Anyway.
I'm a man.
Yeah.
Bitch.
But some of the no, like the other issues that they have, they're entitled people. They really are. They're very entitled. The Gen Z and millennials, very entitled.
And that is honestly Gen
very
X.
Self-centered.
That's Gen X's fault. We were like, you know what?
We couldn't discipline them because the state and the government took all that power away to actually discipline your kid.
And the hard part is we just wanted to give them a better life than what we had.
Right. We wanted to actually be around and talk to the kids.
Because when we were kids, we wanted the new video game. We wanted this. If you wish in one hand and shit in the other one, see which one fills up first.
Yeah.
That was the answer to us.
Yeah.
So we were like, nope. We're going to make sure that our kids
have everything that they need.
Everything they need. And we're going to make sure that they have fun, that they're going to be entertained, because we had to entertain ourselves.
Yeah.
It's kind of our fault.
Not my fault.
I mean, not our fault necessarily. It's more somebody else's, whatever.
A lot of this generation, these two generations, they're very coddled. Like, I remember when we went to school, if your report was going to be late or your assignment was going to be late, you got points knocked off of it.
Or you got a 0.
or you got a 0. And now, or you fail a test, that's the grade you got.
Yep.
And now every single school, like you fail a test and you get to retake it. Like, what the hell is that all about? No, you didn't, the kid didn't study. I remember, I'll probably get in trouble for this, but I remember our youngest was at school and it was during the whole pandemic thing that was going on. And I remember the school called and said, your child needs to come home because he's, what term did they use? He's very, very tired. He's,
I can't remember.
Starts with an F. I can't think of it. Anyways, they said that he's very tired and he needs to come home. And I said, he didn't sleep last night. He went to bed late. He's fine. Send him back to class. Well, you're not going to come and get him? And I said, no, not because he needs a nap. No, he can take a nap when he comes home from school. He's staying there, take him back to class. Well, he's very, very tired. He needs to go home. You know, this thing is going around the schools and we want to make sure he doesn't pass anything on. And I said, he's fine. Send him back to class. And I got a call from one of his teachers saying, yeah, the nurse wasn't very happy with you. And I said, let me think about how much I give a shit about that. Yeah, 0.
0.
I don't care. Fatigued. That's what she said that he's very fatigued. Yeah. And I said, no, fatigued is a medical symptom. He's tired because the little boy didn't get enough sleep last night. So put him back in class and tell him to stay awake. And they put him on the phone. Oh, are you going to come get me? No. And I said, if you fall asleep again in that classroom, yeah, you and I are going to have a discussion when you get home. And the discussion is going to be, let's see how much cleaning around the house will keep you awake when you're at school.
There you go.
How much cleaning do you need to do around the house to make sure that you stay awake the next time in school?
Yeah.
Because I don't want another phone call like that.
No.
Unless you're throwing up like purple aliens or something, you're staying in school. I'm not coming to get you. Yeah. But yeah, so we're the critical thinkers. We weren't coddled when we were younger. I mean, my dad, my dad would not let us stay home from school. Oh my God.
Oh no.
There's no way.
You'd have to barf up a lung to
yes.
stay home.
Oh my gosh.
It just never.
No. And these generations here, they're overly sensitive about everything.
Yeah.
I mean, we think about our own kids, like they're overly sensitive. I remember our oldest came home from school when she was in junior high and she said, my friends didn't want to talk to me at school today. And I said, okay. And she said, well, I'm just very upset about that. And I need to talk to you about my feelings. And I'm like, why am I being punished for this? It's not like I was ignoring you at school. Why do I have to be punished for this? And she said, well, I just want to talk to you about this because I'm just really sad. What if they don't like me anymore? And I said, then make new friends. I don't know what to tell you.
Right.
Like, who cares what those bitches think? You're not even going to be talking to them in 5 years. Who cares?
Right.
Make new friends. And I tried saying to her, you know, we all like, there was something that every one of us had to deal with when we were in school. You know, I got glasses when I was 6 years old. If you think that I haven't heard every Four Eyes joke that there is, I have. And it's just, so I didn't really, you know, that didn't bother me at all.
See, I was dyslexic, so I had to go to extra classes. Mm-hmm. And when I would go to the extra classes, I would hear people saying, "Oh, he's going to the retard class," because back then that's what they said.
Yeah.
You know, yeah, it's brutal, and it was brutal back then.
Yep.
But you know what? I sucked it up and went to the other class and learned and figured it out. I don't know. It seems to me that they did a pretty good job.
Well, you know, everybody is talking about, you know, bullies at school and this and that. We had a system back in our generation. The system was you either beat the shit out of the bully yourself or you find somebody bigger and you have that person beat them up.
Because either you or one of your friends knows somebody who's way bigger who can go and talk to that guy and say, "Who touched you?" And that's usually all it took. But.
Yeah. I usually got you to do that talking for me because of that face right there. No, I handled my own shit. When I was in high school, I wore the same outfit to two dances in a row because we didn't have much money, and it was a skirt and a sweater that my mom had, and it was really pretty. This pink sweater and a pink and gray skirt. It was beautiful, and I wore that to two dances in a row. And I was in the bathroom at the second dance, and one of the snotty girls that I went to school with, she made a comment about, didn't you wear that at the last dance? I can't believe you're wearing that again. Oh my God. And so these other girls start laughing with her. And I said, thank you very much for noticing what I'm wearing. It means a lot to me that you paid so much attention to me at the last dance and this dance that you remember what I was wearing both times. Funny, I don't have any idea what you were wearing. I guess it wasn't all that important to me, but thank you. You've just made my night that I'm so important to you that you remember what I was wearing. That's how I dealt with it. Like, throw it back on them.
Usually with me, it was either a clothesline or it was, punch to the side of the face.
Choking them out.
I mean, whatever the situation warranted, I didn't have any issue. I didn't have any issue using these guys here. I didn't.
I used words because that's like in my house, you had to have a thick skin because, my dad and my brothers, we were all really sarcastic. And so you just develop a thick skin. So nothing bothers you when you go outside. It's like, why do I care what you think? You don't mean anything to me. I don't give two shits what you say.
I was in first grade. I had just moved to Winnebago. They put me in second grade. I was basically a retard compared to what they were because I went to Rockford Public School, which is terrible. So I'm reading Run, Spot, Run, and they're reading like novels. And I'm like, okay, this is not good because I can't remember how to read. And the teacher keeps calling on me and stuff, and I have no idea. And I'm just like standing there with the question mark above my head. Well, this teacher was really mean. She would come over and pick up the entire desk and slam it down and go, because she would get so frustrated with me.
Ow.
So a couple of times of that, I told my parents about it. They went to the principal. The principal talked to me. And between my mom and dad and the principal, they decided we're going to put him back in first grade. So I went back first grade. And they figured out I was dyslexic almost immediately when I got into first grade because I was writing everything backwards. So I started the extra classes and of course got called a retard plenty of times. But I didn't care. As long as I figured it out, it didn't matter. Just part of life. But
makes me feel bad. I would have taught you to read. Should come over to my house more often. I would have done
I didn't have any say in that. I didn't have keys.
You should have taken them. I don't know.
That's
all I'm saying.
But I had some really good counselors and, teachers that would give me the extra time and take a little extra time and show me in a way that I would understand stuff. Because I'm not a memory person very well. I don't remember things very well. I just totally said that backwards, which is typical of a dyslexic idiot.
I'm Tracy, now, by the way. I'm your wife.
Here's the weird thing. If you're dyslexic, you have what's called hyperfocus. Hyperfocus is awesome. When you do focus on something, it's almost impossible for somebody to pull you away.
It's awesome to a point, unless you're married to somebody who has hyperfocus.
Because you can learn things that most people don't know.
Yeah.
And I learned a lot. I worked with my uncles building houses. I actually started out working on go-karts, motorcycles, mini bikes, all that kind of stuff when I was really, really young.
Because
And
Gen Z people or Gen X people, we were allowed to go out and like actually pick up a hammer and pick up all these tools that are dangerous for kids now. And we were allowed to do that, go out and drive a tractor when you're 9, and go and do stuff like that. And now you're not allowed to do that.
My uncles knew that I loved to tinker with stuff. So they would bring me like, a mini bike they found in the garbage or this or that. And I'd take 3 or 4 things and make one working thing out of it. And, we always rode wherever we wanted, whenever we wanted, until, of course, I ended up getting pulled over by the cops on my go-kart a few times, and then on my motorcycle, and then on my,
And
I didn't get
no
my license
helmets,
until I was
yes.
18. And no helmet, of course. And I don't even want to think about how many times I wiped out on a motorcycle or a mini bike or anything else. And
What do you need a helmet for?
I got lucky. There's no doubt. I should have been wearing a helmet.
Yeah.
But yeah, we had 3-wheelers and 4-wheelers, and we worked on cars. I mean, my brother had a Dodge Demon that we took a 318, put 360 heads on it, a 727 transmission, 355 gear, sure grip in the back. We put it all together, and it was freaking fun. That thing was awesome. And my uncle went in there and turned up the pump pressure in the transmission. So when it would shift gears, it was like bam! Instead of like, it would go, It was fun. Oh my God.
Gravity bike.
So I used to get BMX magazines all the time. And one of the things that they showed in there was in California, they would take a bike, flip the frame upside down, and put the wheel on there so that it would make it fairly low to the ground. And then you put weights on where normally the crank would be. And then you use gravity to propel you. So I go down and I had a bike that had, Raider handbrakes on it. And I flipped the handlebars forward so that I could lean forward on it. And I was basically leaning flat on it. So I went down this hill. I get about halfway down the hill, realize, because I'm about to cross these tracks, I realize all of a sudden I have no brakes. I forgot to flip the little lever back down so that I would have brakes. So I put my feet down and I'm grinding. I literally ground the ends off of my shoes.
Oh my God.
And then went into, because it was a dead end. So it went hill, a little valley, and then a train track, and then hill, and then it went back up and into, it was what do you call it? It was a dead end. And at the dead end, it was a hill. So I get to the dead end, and I had slowed it down enough that when it was a bunch of trees and stuff, and when I went into the trees and stuff, I just went sideways and grabbed a hold of everything and stopped myself. But it was probably not the best gravity bike. I don't know.
See, that's the thing about our generation too. We had a lot of fun doing really stupid shit. Thank God.
Freestyling.
Thank God
BMXing.
Thank God there were no cell phones around then, because we did a lot of stupid shit.
A Saturday for us would be jump on our bikes, ride 7 miles to Winnebago, ride around all day, then ride home.
Mm-hmm.
Before you had to get home before the lights came on. Otherwise, you were in big trouble.
Floppy shoe walk home.
Yeah.
Our big fun was we would get up early in the morning. We'd be outside playing baseball or something out in the backyard, or football or whatever. And then we'd cut through. There was a line of woods, and then on the other side of the woods was a big cornfield. So we would cut through the woods and, we'd be throwing sticks and rocks at the neighbor kids, and whatever fun we could think of. And then we'd cut through and then get into the cornfield. And then we'd try and go and walk really low so that we wouldn't be seen above the corn stalks, because if you were seen above the corn stalks, the farmer would shoot at you.
Mm-hmm.
So we'd be running through, and then on the other side of the cornfield, there was a quarry.
Yeah.
And so we'd be over there at the quarry. Incredibly dangerous now that I think about it. But I mean, me and my brothers we run down there and, we'd go play there. At one of the other houses we lived at, we were all younger than that. I think I was like 10. So my youngest brother was like 5.
Yeah.
And we'd run into we had a cemetery that was behind our house. So there was a hole in the fence, and so we'd crawl through the hole, and then we'd be playing in the cemetery. And like we'd hide, there was this humongous pine tree, and we'd go and we'd move the boughs around, and crawl in there and like try and climb up to the very top. And
pine trees were the best because you could climb up in them. But the worst part about them is all the pine sap, all the pine tar.
Oh my God.
You'd go home and it would be all over your clothes, all over your hands, all over your face, in your hair.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Mom did not like that at all.
No, but these pine trees were so cool because you literally move a branch out of the way, and you can crawl in there and then stand up completely and just look around, and there's like nothing above you. It was so cool.
Mm-hmm.
It was like a teepee or something. It was so cool. It was our pine teepee. Yes. But I mean, it just seemed like a lot simpler back when we were growing up.
Yeah.
We had so much fun, and like everybody always talks about drinking out of the garden hose. Yeah, we did that.
I mean, you could play poopy stick. You take a stick, shove it in some poop, and chase people around. It's great fun. Even better was when I was really little. We actually lived next to a school that had a huge hill. And we would go over and we would sled on the hill all day.
Yeah.
We'd be over there for forever until it was starting to get dark.
Yeah. And that is true. When the streetlights came on, you knew to go home.
Yep.
And like every kid knew that. It wasn't even a question. You just knew that you were supposed to go home then. And we'd have races out in the backyard, and like my dad and Mom would be out there timing us on how fast we ran and everything. And I mean, it was a lot of fun.
I remember being about 5 years old, maybe 6 years old, riding my big wheel down the sidewalk and seeing this guy Ricky that lived across the road, that was a little older. I think he was high school age probably, and thinking to myself, wow, I'm going to be his age one of these days. Wait a minute. I'm going to be Mom and Dad's age one of these. I'm going to be Grandpa's age one of these days. And I totally freaked out. My mom had to calm me down, Bizarre.
I didn't think about anything like that. I just...
Oh, I was scientific as an MF.
Yeah. No, I mean, I remember you go to school, you come home, you do your homework, you watch a little bit of TV, and you go to bed, and whatever. And we're going to have a whole show that's dedicated to Saturday morning routine, the Saturday morning cartoons. Tune in for that. That's going to be fun. Or 80s movies. We're going to do a show about that. Next week, we're going to talk about 80s music.
Yes.
Or Gen X music. Because Gen X music isn't just 80s. It's, we grew up in the 70s. We were little kids in the 70s, and that's the music your mom played when she was around the house. And
hey, somebody from our generation created rap.
Yeah.
That's what I'm talking about.
Mm-hmm. And then 80s, we were in school then, middle school or high school. We had all the great songs from the 80s. And then by the time we got into our early 20s, it was all the 90s stuff, which was fucking awesome.
Yeah.
That was awesome. But
I remember the 80s watching breakdancing was big in the 80s. And I knew how to break dance. Everybody knew how to break dance a little bit.
Well, we're going to talk
you know?
about that next week, honey. Don't get ahead of
Oh, no, I'm just saying.
But no, it was so much simpler. It just seemed like it was so much simpler back then. And now it's like, I remember when we had our kids at home, and it was one thing after another, and running the kids from one place to another. And it was like, even during the summer, the kids have so many activities that they're doing, play dates and this and that. And I'm like, oh my God, if these kids want another goddamn play date, why don't they just wait till they're high school and then we'll call the play date a date?
See, we were like, if you could.
We didn't have play dates. We just went outside and played.
Right.
Like we had our imagination. We just played.
My parents,
I remember the time, like we got in so much trouble because it was raining outside. And so we went out to the garage and we grabbed all these empty containers from the garbage can and we cleaned them off. And then we took them downstairs to the basement and we set up all these boxes that were downstairs and we lined them up in aisles. And then we were pushing another box around and this empty box and shopping and putting things into our cart using Monopoly money and
imagination,
like the money from Monopoly and the Game of Life and any game like the fake money that we could find. We were using all that to pay for our stuff that we were shopping for. And my mom came down. She's like, "What are you doing? Oh my God, you're using trash. What the hell are you doing? And how are you going to play your games now upstairs because you're using all the money down here?" And I'm like, "It's okay, Mom. We cleaned all the trash up. It's okay. We're buying it. We're shopping. We're playing grocery store." And she's like, "Get this out of here!
Clean this up now!
Get that trash out of my house!" I'm like, oh my God. So much trouble that we got into for that. Oh my God.
When I was really little, my dad made us a little, I don't know what you'd call it, like a fort downstairs out of I want to say it was a dishwasher box.
Mm.
It was big.
Big boxes were the best. They were the best.
Awesome. Until they decided that they wanted to do the fiberglass downstairs in the basement up above. They did that. And then when we went in there, of course, fiberglass got all over everything. So we came out of there going, and itching and scratching and had no idea, we're kids. We don't have kids going out.
Oops. Yeah.
I remember I was always taking stuff apart. And my dad, one of the very first things that I took apart, he had it was like a snowmobile that it wasn't remote control or anything fancy. It just was a snowmobile and you could turn it on and it would run across the snow. Well,
that's cool.
It didn't work. And it was sitting on his dresser. And I asked him one day, I said, what's the matter with it? And he said, "I don't know." And I was like, "Why don't you fix it?" Because I wanted to play with it. And he's like, "Nah." So I end up basically stealing it, take it downstairs. I knew how to use a screwdriver and I'm maybe 4 or 5. I take this thing completely apart, find a wire that's supposed to be connected that's not, and I watched my dad do it. I stripped the wire back, put it back on, and then I bring it back upstairs and put batteries in it, and it worked. So I bring it back in and I set it on his dresser, and I waited. I was like, so I'm sitting there waiting for him to come home. He comes home and I'm like, "Hey, Dad, can I play with that snowmobile?" And he goes, "I told you that thing don't work." And I said, "Yeah, it does." And he goes, "No, it doesn't." I said, "Yeah, it does. I put batteries in it and it works." He said, "There was already batteries in it." I said, "Oh, those batteries must have been bad." And he goes, "I don't care. Go ahead." So I go in there and I take it and I put it on the floor and I turn it on and it goes screaming across the floor. And he goes, "I don't." He had no idea how I could fix it. Because I told him right after that, I said, yeah, I fixed it. And he's like, you fixed it. Okay. All right. You put new batteries in. I said, no, I took all the screws out and I went in there and I found the wire was disconnected from the motor. So I put the wire back on and put it all back together and put the batteries in. And he was like blown away.
I'm kind of blown away right now. Holy crap. 4 or 5?
Yeah, I was
Holy
young
shit.
when I did that. And that was like the very first thing that I worked on. After that, anything I could get my hands on, I tore it apart because I wanted to learn how everything worked. That was my like life's goal, is to learn how everything works.
That's crazy.
Yeah, it was good.
See,
I mean,
that's the
I learned
imagination.
a lot from just breaking stuff and putting it, fixing it and putting it back together.
That's the imagination and the tenacity that
The tenacity more than anything, yeah.
that these two generations don't have, like
Yeah.
millennials and Gen Z. I just don't see it in a whole lot. There's some kids, I will say, there are some kids that I call them all kids. Sorry, there are some kids that do show tenacity, that do show drive, that do show creativity and imagination. There are some, but
farmers' kids, pretty much. Other than that, no.
Kids that were raised by like people like us, but like, we're like, I just don't see the tenacity and some like the drive,
the imagination,
to succeed,
the drive,
because
the questioning, anything.
I mean, I remember being in college and saying, like, I would go out on dates with people and they're like, oh, we could go out and we could keep dating. And I'm like, I don't really want to date you right now because I'm in college and my goal is to get that degree. I don't care what you do with your life. My goal is to get that degree, and I'm not going to let anything stop me from doing it. And that tenacity, that this is what my goal is, and this is what I'm gonna achieve this no matter what. You don't see that with a whole lot right now, and it's sad. It's sad to see that. You think about, like, are they going to be able to handle the problems of today, like real world problems? Because I see a lot of Gen Zs and millennials that are on their phones all the time, and they're having these debates online and getting into fights with people on the internet. And I'm like, about
things they have no clue
about. They have no real world experience about anything, and they want to get into an argument on the internet with people, yet they can't solve a problem in real life. They can debate things online, but they can't solve a problem in real life.
Well, when you have Google to give you all the answers, or YouTube to give you all the answers, or Rumble to give you all the answers, or Twitch to give you, it's like,
yeah, they can't solve problems in their personal life either. I mean, they don't know how to have a meaningful discussion with anybody else. Like, I know our youngest came home for Christmas from the Navy, and we saw a lot of him, a lot of the top of his head, because that's, he was on his phone most of the time, and you don't dare try and take that phone away. I think it's attached to his hand. I don't know. Didn't want the aggravation.
Yeah, pretty much.
But do they have the skills to succeed?
More than anything, do they have the perseverance?
Right.
Because that is the number one thing you have to have, is perseverance. And you just don't see it as much.
Well, I am writing a new book. So that's, like, you guys are the first to know. I'm writing a new book. It's about what kids need to know before they move out. Like, all these different skills that they should know before they move out of your house.
Yes.
And so it's like basic things all the way up to things that are a little more difficult, that they should have an understanding of how this works, and all different kinds of topics. I won't get into all of it, but
it's kind of one of those, if you're mechanical, you should be using tools.
Well, a lot of kids don't know if they're mechanical or not because they don't get off their phones.
I understand. But if they're playing games that are mechanical, give it a shot.
Maybe.
Just saying.
Maybe.
You never know.
Yeah. Anyways, next week, you don't have any homework for tonight, but next week we're going to talk about 80s music. And I don't think we're allowed to play music on this channel.
You can for I think a couple of seconds. You just can't get crazy with it.
Yeah,
So.
but we're gonna talk about 80s music and next week, and it's or not 80s Gen X music because it's all three of those all three of those decades of music. So we're gonna be talking about that next week. So yeah,
because girls just want to have fun.
Okay. And boys are smoking in the boys' room.
Smoking in the boys' room.
Yes.
Thinking it's a drag. Listening to my teacher rap. Just not my bag.
Anyways, so we will talk to you next week. So hope you guys had a good time reliving some of your memories from Gen X, from the 80s, from, your childhood. Hope you guys had a good time, and we will see you next week. We love you guys. Thank you so much for joining us. Talk to you next week.
See you next week.